When my mother told me she was getting remarried, I tried to smile and pretend I was happy for her. But deep down, I felt a knot tightening inside my chest. Life had already changed so much after my parents' separation, and the idea of another adult stepping into my world felt overwhelming. When Daniel, her new husband, moved into our home, everything seemed unfamiliar. His voice in the hallway, his shoes beside the door, even the way he arranged the breakfast table. I kept my distance, speaking only when necessary and avoiding eye contact whenever I could. One evening, after a long and stressful day at school, I slumped into the chair at the dining table. My homework was scattered across the surface, but my mind was too clouded with frustration to focus. My classmates had been unusually harsh that day, and I couldn't shake the feeling that no matter how hard I tried, I didn't belong anywhere. I sat motionless, staring at a blank page, the silence pressing down on me. Daniel walked into the room quietly. I expected him to ignore me or ask stiff, polite questions the way adults often do. Instead, he simply set a warm mug of cocoa beside my elbow. The steam curled softly upward, carrying a smell that instantly made the room feel a little less heavy. He didn't sit too close, but he pulled out a chair across from me and settled in gently. "I don't know what's weighing on your mind," he said in a calm, almost cautious tone, "but you don't have to face it alone." His words startled me, not because they were dramatic, but because they were simple and sincere. I didn't reply, but I didn't push the mug away either. I took a small sip, letting the warmth spread through me. He didn't bombard me with questions or try to give advice. He just sat there, present but quiet, as if offering a safe space without demanding anything in return. For the first time since he entered our lives, I didn't feel the urge to shut him out. "Need company while you work?" he asked after a few minutes. I shrugged. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe loneliness, maybe something else, but I gave a small nod. And so he stayed. He didn't interfere with my homework. He simply kept me company while I worked, occasionally flipping through a book of his own. The quiet companionship eased something inside me. When I finally closed my notebook, he smiled gently. "Same time tomorrow?" This time, I nodded without hesitation. That night marked the beginning of a quiet ritual, one that would slowly, unexpectedly change the shape of my heart. Our nightly routine slowly became the calmest part of my day. At first, Daniel's presence felt unusual, like a guest who had overstayed his welcome. But as days passed, the silence between us grew comfortable rather than awkward. I began noticing little things about him: how he always carried a notebook filled with scribbled thoughts, how he paused before speaking as if choosing his words carefully, and how he never forced conversations, letting them unfold naturally. One evening, I was staring blankly at my math textbook, numbers blurring together on the page. My frustration bubbled up until I dropped my pencil with a soft thud. Daniel glanced up from his notebook and studied my expression with quiet concern. "Do you want to take a short break?" he asked gently. I sighed heavily. What's the point? I'm terrible at this. I just don't get it. He leaned back in his chair, folding his arms loosely. "You're not terrible at it," he said. "You're overwhelmed." That's not the same thing. Something about his tone, steady, calm, and completely without judgment, made me loosen my shoulders. "Still," I muttered, "feels the same." He smiled a bit. "Want to hear something embarrassing?" I looked up, caught off guard. "What?" He tapped his notebook. "When I was your age, I used to hide my math worksheets under my bed. I thought if I didn't see them, the problems would magically solve themselves." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Oh, absolutely," he chuckled. "And my teachers were not impressed?" A small laugh escaped me before I could stop it. He continued, "I spent more time being afraid of failing than actually trying. Took me years to understand that perfection isn't the goal. Showing up and learning little by little, that's what matters." I studied his face, noticing a sincerity that felt rare. His stories weren't sugar-coated or designed to impress. They were honest. He wasn't pretending to know everything, he was letting me see that he had struggled, too. "You don't have to be brilliant every day," he said softly. "You just have to try again tomorrow." For the first time in a long while, I felt seen, not as a student who needed to succeed, but as a person learning to navigate the world. I picked up my pencil again. The numbers were still confusing, but I wasn't scared of them anymore. That night, I realized something important. Daniel wasn't trying to replace anyone. He was simply trying to be someone I could lean on, someone who believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. and that was more than enough. A few weeks later, our school announced the annual science fair. Posters were taped across the hallways, decorated with bright stars and big letters that read, "Show your curiosity." Most students buzzed with excitement, but my stomach twisted the moment I heard about it. Presenting something in front of teachers and students felt like a mountain, too steep to climb. That evening, I sat at the dining table, poking at my dinner absent-mindedly. Daniel noticed almost immediately. "Rough day?" he asked. I hesitated, then finally admitted, "We have a science fair coming up. Everyone has to make a project. And I already know mine will be awful." He set down his fork and gave me a thoughtful look. "Why do you think that?" I shrugged, staring at my plate. "Because I always mess things up. I don't want to fail in front of everyone." Daniel took a slow breath, the kind he used when choosing his words with care. "Then fail," he said simply. "Mess up, learn, try again. That's how you grow." His answer surprised me. Most adults preach success, not mistakes. I frowned. "But what if I embarrass myself?" He smiled gently. "Courage isn't about getting everything right. It's about trying even when you're scared." Those words settled deep in my chest. By the end of the night, I reluctantly agreed to participate. Over the next several evenings, our routine transformed. Instead of textbooks, the table filled with wires, cardboard, glue, scattered notes, and half-finished ideas. Daniel never once took over. He guided, suggested, and asked questions that helped me think, but he let the project remain mine. Some nights, we stayed up late fixing tiny errors that felt enormous at the time. Other nights, the entire project fell apart, literally. A cardboard model collapsed. A light bulb refused to glow, and more than once I thought I should just quit. But every time frustration bubbled up, Daniel's calm voice anchored me. "It's okay. Try again. We're figuring it out. This is part of the process." Slowly, I began to enjoy the challenge. Not because the project was perfect, but because it was becoming something I created with effort, patience, and growing confidence. When the day of the fair finally arrived, my heart pounded as I set up my display. It wasn't the flashiest project, nor the most advanced, but it was something I had worked for, learned from, and believed in. And for the first time, I felt proud not of the final product, but of the journey that brought me there. The months rolled by and life settled into a gentle rhythm. School became a little easier, my confidence a little stronger, and my world a little brighter. Though I still faced challenges, I didn't fear them the way I once did. I had learned that struggling didn't make me weak. It made me human. And every night, like clockwork, Daniel and I shared our quiet ritual. Sometimes we worked on homework. Sometimes we discussed life. And sometimes we simply sat in silence, letting the comfort of companionship fill the space between us. It was a routine built not out of obligation, but out of trust, something I never imagined I would share with him. One evening, after finishing a long assignment, I found myself studying Daniel's face. The warm light from the lamp softened his features. He looked tired from his long workday, yet he never once complained about spending his evenings sitting with me. A question rose inside me, something I had avoided for months. "Why do you help me every single night?" I asked quietly. He looked up, surprised but not startled. A gentle smile tugged at his lips. "Because when I was your age, someone did the same for me. My uncle used to sit with me after school. He never solved my problems, but he made me feel like I wasn't facing them alone. It changed how I saw myself. It changed my life." He paused, then added softly, "I want to give that to you." His words sank into me like warm sunlight. I had always thought he helped out of duty, because he married my mom, because he felt he had to. But now I understood something deeper. He chose to be here. He chose to show up. He chose to care. My throat tightened with emotion I didn't fully understand. "I'm glad you're here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He reached across the table and gently tapped my notebook. "You did the hard work. I just kept you company." But it wasn't true. He had done far more than that. He taught me patience. He taught me resilience. He taught me that support doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes it comes quietly, in shared moments, night after night. As I grew older, our nightly sessions slowly faded. Life became busier, responsibilities piled up, and routines naturally shifted. But the lessons he taught me never left. Whenever challenges felt impossible, I could still hear his calm voice reminding me, "Show up, try again. You don't have to be perfect." His kindness didn't just help me through homework or school. It shaped the person I became. And to this day, I still carry that life lesson with me. Sometimes the smallest acts of love leave the biggest marks on our hearts.